You may have heard to delist your items on Poshmark and then relist it, and this is going to make you more sales. This is a common practice in the Poshmark community, and a lot of social influencers are telling you that this works. And in today's video, friends, I'm going to be walking you through step by step on how to tell if it actually works for you. Because what works for another store, another social media influencer, whatever it is not going to work for you. We all have different inventory, different pricing strategies, photos, sharing, lots of different factors go into this. So instead of wasting your time doing something that someone else tells you to do and not knowing if it works, I am going to be walking you through the step-by-step tutorial on how to figure out if relisting on Poshmark is really right for you and worth your time and energy. So I will be walking you through, we're going to go through how to pull the Poshmark sales report, because this is what's going to tell you, did your relisted, I keep saying delisted, did your relisted items actually sell? Is it worth your time? Walking you through the step-by-step on how to look through this. So what I'm going to say is what I did, I spent a week solely relisting items. So if you're new to Poshmark, this just means that you take an old item past 60 days because they've changed the algorithm. You take an old item and you make a copy of it. I do have a video up here of how to do this, how to make copies of your features. Or there's bots that will do it for you. I use Posture VA. The link will be down below for that as well. But it will, you basically just take an old item 60 days or later, because then it'll show up as a new listing. You copy it and then you delete the old one. And this, in theory, puts it to the top of the search, puts it to the top of the sharing, and kind of refreshes it as a new listing. Lots of people recommend doing this, but it is time consuming. Even if you use a bot, it's one extra thing that you have to do. So today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to actually tell if it's worth it. So what I did for a week, I completely relisted. I'm going to keep saying delisted, friends. I completely, which you do have to take them off, right? You have to take them off to put them back on. But I completely stopped my new listing. So nothing new. Every listing that I was doing was a old item. I was relisting these items. I did this for a week. And the reason that I did this is so that it's easier to look at the numbers and look at the information that I'm going to be showing you in a minute. We're essentially going to be looking at what sold. And if it sold in under 7 days, that means one of these new relisted items is what sold. And if I was doing new items and relisted items, it would be harder to tell. You can do it. It may just take you a little bit more time to go through the information and decide which items were relisted and which items were completely new items, right? So let's go ahead and walk you through this. We're going to pull a Poshmark sales report. If you've not pulled a Poshmark sales report before, you come up here to this little icon. It's your store. Click on it and then go to order activity. You'll come down to my sales report. For the purpose of this video and my test case, I'm going to hit custom range, and then I'm going to put the week that I did this for. This is going to tell me all of the sales on Poshmark for this week. This will then send you an email. The email, you will click download report, and from there it will give you a CSV file. Something I would be mindful of, depending on your computer settings, you can click on it and it'll open in Excel or Numbers or whatever it is. I like to right click on it and open in text because that's the raw file. Oftentimes our computers think that they're smarter than us, and it'll open in Numbers or in Excel and it'll automatically format some things, and oftentimes I found this to be problematic. So if you right click and you open in text, it'll bring up a raw data file. It looks like just a bunch of numbers and stuff, kind of scary, and I will move that into Google Sheets. The nice thing about doing this is it's the raw file, so it's not going to format anything for you, so it won't throw you off at all. You're able to do it regardless of having Numbers or Excel. You can do it in Google Sheets. Google Sheets is completely free as long as you have access to Google. So like an iPad or a computer or something, you just get on, type in Google Sheets and do it there. So what that's going to look like is, sorry friends, I clicked the wrong screen. What that's going to look like is this, right? Right. So what that's going to look like is this. The raw file is going to come in. You're going to copy and paste it, and it's going to look like this. You highlight A, and you come over to data, and you do split text to column. So if you notice here, there's a comma in between each category. What that's going to do is allows you to do split to columns, and every comma is going to put it into a different column, and then it's going to go ahead and look like this. You're going to have all of the different columns, right? So your listing date, your order date, all of this different information. If you've never seen one of these, it's really helpful information. I sell Google spreadsheets that will actually make sense of this, like what's your sell-through rate, what's your top categories and your best, lots of information you can gain from this. And if you don't like working in Excel, I sell templates where you copy and paste this in, and then all of these charts and graphs are populated. I will link those down below. But for this video, there's just a couple formulas, and I will link the formulas that I'm using down below so you guys can use them as well. I'm going to scroll over. I'm going to right click on A. I've added a column, so I'm going to right click and hit insert column to the right, and that's going to give me a blank column. I like to label what I'm doing, so if you come back and look at this or you're kind of forgetting what you're doing, you have a label. It's best practice to do that. This is my days on hand. How long did it take? How long did I have this item days on hand? Now keep in mind, I am doing this as relisted. So this isn't technically how long I've had the item since I purchased it. It's how long has it been on Poshmark as a new listing. If you come over here, you can see the listing date. There's no way for Poshmark to know how long you had it. All they can pull is when was this item listed. If you're relisting it, this is the new listing date. And then you have your order date. This is the date that it was purchased. So these are all the sales that I had for this week that I pulled. And then I want to come over here and see how long did it take from when I listed it to when it sold. And if that's under 7 days, then it means that relisting works. That item was relisted. It's, I went to the bottom of my closet, so I know I've had it for a while. I relisted it and it sold within a week, which I consider working. You can change this if you wanted it to be longer, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So all you're going to do is you're going to come down here and you're going to go equals. Like I said, I have these formulas down below. Do make sure if you're doing it that your columns, your information is in the same cell that I am in. Otherwise, these formulas won't work because it'll be referencing something different. But you're just basically taking the order date and subtracting the listing date. When it ordered from when it was listed, how long did it take to sell, right? And then you just populate it all the way down. These are my sales. You may have to go further down or not as many depending on how many sales you had for the test scenario that you're looking at. So these tell me all the days. Now, instead of going through one by one, I'm going to walk you through how to do a couple formulas to make sense of this, to see how many of these actually sold that you relisted. How many of your sales from this week were actually from relisted items? So the first thing we're going to do is look at our total sales. How many of our total sales, how many sales did we have for this week? And for me, that's 17. And all I did was do equals, this is just a formula, equals count AB 14 through AB 30. And all that is doing is counting, you can see here, is counting how many sales there are, how many sales there are. So if you had more or less sales, you'll have to adjust, if you had 100 sales, you have to go down to AB 100. Well, AB 114 because it starts on 13. And this is just telling me I had 17 sales. It's just counting that. The next thing that we're going to do is we want to look at, of those 17 sales, how many of those sales were less than 7 days. And so what I did is I did a countif. Like I said, these are going to be down below. All this countif is doing is if it was 7 days or less, count it. So how many of these in this range? So you do the range first and then you do the criteria. This is the range I'm looking at. I'm looking at AB 14 through AB 30. And then my criteria is in quotation marks, less than or equal to 7. If you want to consider it working, if it's 14, you would do less than or equal to 14. If you say, hey, it only works if it sells the day that I relist it, less than or equal to 1, right? You can change this, but I did a 7. I figured that was a valid way to tell if it works for me. So once you have that, so now I have 17 sales for the week. 9 of those sold from relisted items. Now we're going to come on down here and say, okay, what percent of my sales from this week were relisted items? And I'm going to do the formula R3 minus R2. Like I said, if you're going to use these exact formulas, you need to make sure that your calculations are in column R and the same cells that I have so that it's referencing the right place. But all this is doing is taking my week of sale or my relisted items, so it's taking my 9 items, dividing it by 17. What percent of my total sales sold from relisted items? And that gives me 53%. So to me, that's telling me this works for me. 53% of my sales came from relisted items. This is a strategy that definitely works for me. If you guys do this, let me know down below if it works for you and what percentage is working for you. If you like this video, YouTube also thinks you'd like this video. I will link a playlist here of how to make money reselling, and then make sure to hit that subscribe button.